All right, what is up, YouTube? So today I'm going to be talking about my January 2022 Banlist predictions. Now, I feel like this format is very diverse, it's very fair, but there is a lot of unfair cards that steal the games from your opponent. And that is the common theme with this, ban list. I want to kind of eliminate a lot of these unfair cards that are not really healthy for the game, and I feel like Konami should address these cards on the next upcoming ban list, or it should be on their radar to hit at least next ban list. If they don't hit it this ban list, they have to hit these cards or these decks the next ban list, or these hits on the next ban list. So let's get started with the first hit. The first hit is very obvious. This should be on everybody's ban list prediction. Imperial Order. Imperial Order, there's not much to say. Negate all spell cards. This is like very powerful, like against pretty much every deck in the format. It'll at least stop one card against your opponent. At least stopping those droplets or those dark rulers is just very strong, and it's just not a healthy card in the game. I feel like a lot of these cards that just say you cannot play because, oh, I set up a board and you flip a anti-spell or Imperial Order, and it's just not good for the game. So I feel like something like Order is definitely something to put on your ban list prediction, and it's just really not healthy for the game. And another card I do want to mention is Anti-Spell. Anti-Spell is a card that I did not put on my ban list predictions because I feel like it's not on Konami's radar, but I still feel like it's a card that should probably at least be limited because it has been commonly side in everybody's decks for the past, like, I don't know, like it seems like 8 to 9 years. It's just not a good card to have in a game where you could just flip anti-spell and just say GG against a spell deck or any deck that just has like answers like Dark Ruler in the format. So I feel like at least hit Order, but anti-spell to 1 would also be welcomed. The next card I want to talk about is another card that has just been warping the formats for years, and that is something like Artifact Scythe. Artifact Scythe is another card that just says you cannot play the game going second against my board because I just, activate Artifact Scythe. And there's a lot of counterplay to all of these cards that counter Scythe. Like droplets, you could play around droplets, you can play around Dark Ruler, you can play around all these, like you could play around all of these going second cards that kind of stop Scythe or stop it from being popped on the field. It's just not really healthy for the game. It's another one of those cards again that just says you cannot play Yu-Gi-Oh, and I feel like it should be addressed on the next ban list. The next card on my list isn't a floodgate, surprisingly. It's a card that I feel like Konami did address before, but I feel like they need to address this deck again because it's not the fact that this deck is like OP broken. It's not like the best deck in the game, but it's a very unfun strategy, and they have realized this is a deck that is not really strong, but is very unfun to play against, and that is the Drytron deck. I think Cyber Angel Benton will now be forbidden because this card, like resolving this card multiple times in a turn, is just unfair. And I feel like the Drytron deck is not really a deck you want to have in today's metagame. As you've seen in the past, Konami has constantly hit these combo decks that say, put up, 12 negates. Hey, can you beat this? Oh, you can't? Well, you lose. If you drew the Dark Ruler and you could play through Double Herald, okay, well, you get the game, or something like that. Like, Drytron, as I said before, Drytron is not an unfair deck. It is very beatable. There's a lot of counterplay to it, but having this sacky deck in the format to where you can just steal games because my opponent, or you just drew no hand traps, and I can just set up a board of, Herald with 5 billion negates and just say, okay, can you play? I just don't think it's fair in the format. Similar to like an FTK deck, like if you think of Gem Knight FTK or, Danger Dark Roar FTK, obviously those decks weren't like the best decks in the format, but having those decks be in the format to where they can just steal games going first, it's just not really that, it's not healthy for the game. Another card, now this is another floodgate that I feel like a lot of people are kind of forgetting that is a problem in the format, and that card is Shaddoll Winda. Shaddoll Winda, I feel like it's just a card that has been a problem since its release, and having like a deck like the Invoke Dogmatica Shaddoll strategy, being able to just incorporate Schism, Nadir Servant, App Cologne, and you know, all these other Dogmatica cards to get to your Shaddoll engine. Notice that I'm saying engine and not deck, because they don't play the Shaddoll cards. They play Schism, they play App Cologne, and they play Winda. They don't play any other Shaddolls. They might play Construct. They might play like Aerial. They might play Shaddoll Dragon. But when you really break it down, they're only playing the Schism, the Winda, the App Cologne. That is it. And that is not healthy for the game. Not having a card that just steals games from a lot of these against a lot of these combo decks is just not healthy to have in the game. So something like Winda is just not good to have in the game at all. I feel like it does make the Invoke Dogmatica strategy a lot stronger. I don't have Meltdown on this list. I don't have Alistair on this list. I don't have Nadir Servant on this list. I don't think any of those cards are unfair. They're very fair in their deck. I think the only unfair card, and that is making the deck like a top 3 deck right now, is Winda. And once we eliminate that, and also DPE, but DPE is fairly new, and I feel like they're not going to hit that anytime soon. So at least giving them a hit to the most unfair card in their deck, which is Winda, is fair enough for the deck, because the deck doesn't need it. It has DPE, it has Invoke, it has the Dogmatica stuff. You could play that without Winda. Like this deck, like I guess like the Shaddoll players are gonna cry, but who cares? Cry about it. This card is just not fair for the game. Another card that I feel like is not on anybody's radar for some weird reason. I feel like a lot of people just like think this card is like fair in the game. It's just not. And that card is AA Zeus. Zeus is so stupid. It's so dumb. It's so broken. This card is very, very hard to deal with. As I said before, a lot of these cards on this ban list is cards that steal the game from your opponent. If you summon a Zeus and you resolve a Zeus, you're most likely winning the game. Unless your opponent has like, or you have like nothing and your opponent top decks something, or they have like PKs in the graveyard and stuff like that, or like they have anything else that can float in the graveyard, then yeah, you can come back pretty much. But sometimes you do have that second Zeus, so playing around that Zeus is just not very strong, and there's very little counterplay to having something like Zeus in the format. If you notice, every time you summon a Zeus, like they activate Zeus, they have like 4 materials, they detach 2, okay, you imper me, they detach 2 again. Like there's very little counterplay to that sort of play. There's only like Solemn Strike, there's only like stopping the summon from even happening, like popping the XYZ or stopping the attack, or you have stuff like, yeah, as I said, Strike, or you have the Forbidden Droplets that can outright stop the effect entirely, and you can't change to the effect because they most likely send a monster. So Zeus is one of those cards that is very unfair, steals games, has very little counterplay. I just feel like it's a card that just shouldn't be in the game. It's just a very, very powerful card, and I feel like a lot of people don't realize it, or they do realize it, but they don't sense that it's a problem. Another card that I feel like should have been banned, or should be banned, but I feel like they're going to limit it first, is yeah, this is the limited section, by the way. I just want to mention that. But this is a card that I feel like should be banned, but it's probably going to get limited, and that is Mystic Mine. Mystic Mine is a card that has been off and on in the game continuously, but I think it's about time to address Mystic Mine. Mystic Mine is just one of those unfair, unfun decks that you play against. Or if you play a deck like Striker or Dinos before, or any going second deck like the Sword Soul Tenyi deck used to play 3 Mystic Mine, 1 Terraforming, just to say, okay, you can't out this card, GG. Oh, I can just pass turn for like 5 turns, build up my card advantage, and then, you know, OTK you, because I can just turn it off whenever I want to. So something like Mystic Mine is just not healthy in the game. I feel like they're gonna probably put it to 1, but I would prefer it to be banned. But I think at 1, it's a little bit more sacky, but I feel like they need to go, they need to step down to like 1 before they actually ban it, because a lot of these cards, you want to go last resort. You don't just want to ban this, ban this, ban this, ban this, ban this. I don't like that in today's metagame, because I feel like a lot of people are just like, ban, 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 ban. Like every time there's a problem, there's a slight problem in the format, ban, 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 ban. Like it just doesn't need to happen. I feel like Mystic Mine can go to 1. It should probably be banned, but let's say it goes to 1, and then it becomes a problem again. Like maybe a deck is searching it like continuously or something like that, or multiple decks have a way to search this card. Then we can, you know, resolve to banning it. But for the meantime, I think Mystic Mine to 1 is a fair trade, I feel like, to Konami standards. The next card, the last card I have at the limited section, the last deck I am hitting, is another combo deck in the format. I feel like it's not necessarily a big issue. I don't like the argument of hitting like new decks in the format. I feel like this is it's kind of new, but it's kind of old. I feel like a lot of people do count it as a new deck with the new cards, but that card is the Recital Starling. Now, if you notice that this card is very good, a lot of people are playing 2 to 3 copies, and I feel like it's the best hit to the Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc deck without actually killing the deck or making like some weird hit to it, like Nerval to 1 or Fractal to 1 or any of these other weird hits like Warbler to 1 and stuff like that. I feel like Recital is a very good card, a non-once per turn search. It is a card that enables OTK, and it also lets you play around Nib with the F-Zero card. So I feel like it's the most logical hit without actually hurting the deck, or like actually killing the deck, because I feel like a lot of these other hits, like the Nerval hit, or even the Harpy's Featherstorm, or whatever the trap card is called, I feel like it's very, very unnecessary. I feel like we have to address the deck because it is a combo deck. It's not really fun to play against if you have to have multiple hand traps against this deck. And I feel like it gives more choke points to the Lyrilusc Tri-Brigade deck for the deck to be a little bit fairer and a little bit more balanced against these other decks. So that is it for the limits. I feel like we don't need to hit Sword Soul. We do not need to hit DPE. Like I don't feel like DPE is that unfair. I think it's going to eventually lead to where everybody's playing DP, like everybody's tired of DP. Then we need to address DP. But before then, I don't think DP needs to get hit. I don't think Sword Soul is that broken. People even said like Sword Soul is not that good. It summons like a Baroness in like a Qin Shao or Grandmaster, whatever you call it, and then pass. Like, is that really broken? Not really. Like the deck is not unfair. The Protos card is it's a problem, but I don't think there's a reason to just outright ban a card so soon in a deck that you could only play, or a card that you could only play in one deck in the format. I just don't think, and it's in a side deck. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. I just don't think Protos needs to be banned. I don't think these other Sword Soul cards need to be banned. I don't think the 10E cards need to be hit or at all. Like none of these cards need to be hit. The Recital is all that needs to be hit from like the top 2 decks, and that's it. Like Sword Soul is fine. The rest of the stuff is fine, like DP and stuff like that. It's fine for now. I feel like it's not really that much of an issue. I feel like a lot of these rogue decks are, you know, taking advantage of DP, which is very, very good. And stuff like Sword Soul is not really using it. Stuff like Lyrilusc is not using it. So it's not that big of an issue. And I feel like a lot of people are over exaggerating about this whole Verte and DP conversation or Fusion Destiny thing. For the rest of the semi-limits and the unlimited, I don't think it really matters. But just to say, Draco, the Dynamite card, it probably will go to 2 or 3. I think E-Telly might go to 2 or 3. I think they're trying to really push some of these Psychic decks. Maybe in the future they might push like another Psychic deck in the future, but I feel like they're kind of pushing E-Teleport to, you know, 3 just to give a boost to these other decks in the format, like Virtual World. Another deck, Performer Pile Skullcrat Joker is at 3. I think this card is very fair. Pendulums is not really an overpowered deck. I feel like the only person really topping with this deck is Triff, and even then, is that really a problem? Not really. And then we have the newly unlimited card in the OCG, Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. I feel like this card is not really a problem, especially with the once per turn clause. Dragon Link is not really in the format anymore. I feel like this card wouldn't do anything even at 3. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I think that I've covered a lot of things. I feel like there's a lot of obvious stuff, there's a lot of unobvious stuff, and there's a lot of like small stuff that needs to be hit. Let me know what you guys think about this ban list prediction, and let me know if I'm just wrong about some stuff. Maybe you think that Zeus is fair and, you know, Zeus needs to not get hit right now, or like the Megatins is just too soon, or something like that, or a Winda is not really a problem, like Invoke is not that good, or something like that. Just let me know in the comment section. I'm always down to discuss things, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.